Today is June 9th. The reflection is the first reading from the first book of Kings, chapter 17, verses 7 to 16. The reading is sometimes referred to as the miracle of the flour and oil, two basic ingredients. It's a reading about God directing and choosing us, inviting and requesting our participation, and waiting for us to respond. It is also for me a reading about the consoling words of God, "Do not be afraid," which gives us courage and hope. The story is set in desperate times. They're desolate. There's a drought across the land. There's a lack of food and water. It is a dry and parched time, not unlike our own times with COVID-19 pandemic, and now with the reminder once again that there's a lack of justice and racial equality in the structures across our land. We have our own kind of drought. So what can we learn from the story? Elijah the prophet is given a message to get up and move on and go to where the widow lives. Because God tells Elijah, "I have designated a widow there to provide for you." Here it is God who chooses with a purpose, and in this sacred story, a widow to provide for one of his own prophets. I'm asking myself the question, how aware am I of God at work in my life, in my circumstances? Who might be present-day prophets that God is asking me to recognize and respond to? When Elijah greets the widow, he makes his request for bread and water. Just imagine what it must have been like for the widow who was on her last handful of flour and little bit of oil. What spoke to me was how she chose to respond to Elijah's request. She first of all acknowledges, "As Yahweh your God lives, I have no baked bread, only a handful of meal." And she honestly tells what she has, no holding back, but speaking her truth, that when she prepares this last meal for herself and her son, they shall die. The assurance that God is with her comes through the consoling and comforting words, "Do not be afraid. Go and do." The widow went and did what Elijah had asked, and in her doing what God had designated for her. And she received God's abundance. The jar of meal was not spent, nor the jug of oil emptied. We too can hear these words in our lives. "Do not be afraid. I go before you always. Come follow me." Giving us courage and hope to willingly respond to God at work in our lives.